Hi, this is Elaine Starling. Welcome to the Abundance Journey. I'm the Abundance Ambassador. I love introducing you to abundance in all forms. And that's why I find the coolest, greatest, most wonderful people to introduce you to. I am so fortunate that I get to work with Lorraine Ellen Scott. You're going to love Lorraine. She's a Reiki Master Teacher. She's an empathic intuitive. She's an inspirational mentor. She helps introverted entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers step into their power so they thrive in business. She's got over 20 years of experience with vibrational energy healing. And Lorraine developed her signature C.A.L.M process that helps people live life on their terms for growth and sustainable success. One of the things I absolutely adore about Lorraine is that she makes everything fun. She brings a lot of laughter into her work. She incorporates things like card reading for clarity and inspiration that helps you see things from a fresh perspective. I love Lorraine's mission. She's really determined to help introverts expand their comfort zone so they're confident and seen as masterful in their field. Lorraine, welcome to the Abundance Journey.
Thank you, Elaine. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you here because we've been working together for, I think it's 3 years so far.
3 years. Mm-hmm.
And I just get so much out of our relationship and our collaboration. But I would love for you to talk a little bit about what got you started doing this and why you're so passionate about it.
Well, and you know my story, but I'll share it with your audience. I started out as a Reiki Master Teacher, and I really enjoyed it. And I just felt that the more I needed to share Reiki with other people, the more I had to get myself out there. And as an introvert, that's a really tough and tall order because it has to really make you push past that comfort zone. And it can be terrifying at times to speak in public, never mind speak about this woo-woo thing called Reiki. So long story short, after, the big change these last couple of years, having to pivot because I couldn't do in-person classes anymore, and there were some personal changes in my life as well, I decided that I wanted to focus on introverted entrepreneurs, coaches and healers, because they need to get their message out there too. And I can so relate as an introvert. You could spend days working with people and networking, and you're like, hey, I'm not introverted anymore. And then you fall flat and you disappear for like days, sometimes weeks. And you lose that momentum, that digital marketing momentum, and have to start all over again. And there was just the peaks and valleys were so drastically different that it just became too hard to sustain. Yeah, so that's when I started doing my own work and created my process, if you will, that just seemed to make a big difference in my own life, that I started sharing it with other people and, like yourself. And if it's repeatable and you can teach it, then you're onto something.
It's made a huge difference in my life. And a lot of people don't realize this about me because I come across as very extroverted, and I'm comfortable in small groups being extroverted, but I get really anxious and uncomfortable in crowds. I have a real issue with crowds. So I have to, I can blah on stage, but then I go back and I'm introverted when I'm off stage. I really have to recover. So I totally can relate to what you're talking about. And Lorraine, I know it sounds a little bit weird because here you're introverted entrepreneurs and abundance. How would you define abundance? Since everybody defines it differently, how would you define abundance?
Oh, that's easy. Abundance is energy. And for an introvert, that could mean physical energy. Sure. So we can get our message and mission out there, that it's whatever can be renewed and reused. I mean, that's the flow of abundance. It's
so true. Yeah. Nobody's ever described it like that. That's really beautiful. I love that. I'm so going to quote you on that because that's really good. Yeah. So Everybody struggles with abundance. I would love for you to share a challenge that you see a lot of introverted entrepreneurs deal with, or just a lot of people in general deal with, that you personally experienced, and kind of what shifted in you to get you off to the other side.
I could go a few directions with that. I think the first thing that comes to mind is that feeling of self-doubt and being in that lack of confidence. Am I going to have the energy to do this networking that I need to go to this live virtual event? Am I going to have the stamina I need to build my business over the course of weeks and months and years? And I know for me, that was a big problem. But the moment I started connecting with community, meeting other people who had similar stories, not everybody's introverted, but you're working with people of like a community. We're not all doing the same thing. Not a community isn't all policemen, right? Like everyone has their, there's the bakers, the candlestick makers, and, so in a community with business owners and entrepreneurs, you've got people who have done it. They're the sages. They're there. They're so heart-centered that they want to reach down and, help pull you up. Then there's us novice newbies who are like, deer in the headlights. You don't know what to do, but you're not alone anymore.
Right.
I mean, I know introverts, people think introverts don't like people, but it's often that we just don't know how to relate in our own way or feel comfortable in that. But at the same time, to be around people who get you, that to me is abundance. And I don't even really remember what your question was.
No, you made a really good point. You made a really good point, because the struggle that you have is when you're on your own, you can tie yourself in knots. Mm-hmm. And when you get yourself out in a community of like-minded, mutually supportive, mutually empowering people, that makes all the difference in the world. Because when you're not feeling it, I always say, if you can't be it, borrow it.
I love that.
Borrow the energy from somebody else, borrow their enthusiasm, borrow their belief, and they'll believe in you when you can't believe in you. Yeah. So it's really, really powerful to be in the right community, surround yourself with the right people. That is a huge breakthrough. Thank you for sharing that, because it really makes a massive difference who you surround yourself with as to how quickly you'll rise.
Absolutely. Yes. And it's those moments. And it just, in collaborating with you, a couple days a week for the last 3 years, each of us have our elated times and celebrate, and each of us have our low times. And that's where having the community to help bolster you and help you see things from that abundant perspective makes a world of difference.
Sure does. It sure does. So, Lorraine, what is your favorite way to help other people experience abundance?
Well, I kind of hinted to it already. It's showing them what they already have within them. And we're often so close to things, we're immersed in it, that we can't see it. We can't see the transformation we've already had. So it takes somebody who's outside to look in and go, wow, you've come this far. Stretch it for an introvert to stretch their comfort zone enough that they can actually sustain their energy for a full 3-day, all day long live event. And at the end of the day, still have time to make dinner. That's abundance. That's an abundance of energy.
That's huge abundance. Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that in. I love that. So, one of the biggest challenges I think we all deal with, I call it, are we there yet? Right? It's like, okay, could you just like poof, turn me into somebody who's totally comfortable being in public and showing up fully and completely? Could you just like wave a magic wand? Because I want to be there now. So that's, sadly, it's not how things work. I always ask, what are the baby steps that you point out to your people that you work with? What are the baby steps we should be looking for that show us that we are making progress?
It's really our belief in ourselves. it's those times where, from an introvert perspective, where we say yes to doing something with someone and we feel good about it instead of instantly going, oh, I wish I didn't commit to that. I think that was a big step for me, is to be able to say, yes, I'll do this for you, or I'll go to this thing and I'm okay with it. And I follow through and nothing comes up out of the blue. Oh, and that is a huge step. I guess it's a giant baby.
It is a baby step, but it's a giant leap step because it's acknowledging who you are being. Yes. And it's acknowledging that you're willing to get through your own discomfort and show up for other people. And that's when everything opens, because it's not really about you, it's through you. And your willingness to be that conduit and let it flow through you without getting all tied in knots. That is a huge, huge step forward. So yeah, acknowledging your progress is huge. I think that's really good. Now, we were talking right before we started the interview, and you talked about your roadmap. Could you tell us a little bit about the roadmap?
Well, it's called the Introvert Roadmap, and it's a little free download where I actually walk you through 5 steps to help you navigate through what it's like to be an introvert in business. And it's a powerful way for you to just, as you mentioned, see those baby steps and trust that you're on the right path and know where the detours might be and know where you've really got to pay attention to the yield signs. And yeah, it's a powerful way. It was powerful for me to create it because I realized my own baby steps on how I got where I am now. And I recommend that to anybody working on something, is to really go through the processes that really make a difference for yourself. That's something that's definitely monetizable. That's abundance right there, to be able to even to share it freely even.
Yeah.
So
if you can duplicate your own experience and run other people through the experience that you had, absolutely, you can make a massive difference for people. Well, Lorraine, I so appreciate you making that roadmap available to the audience, and I'll make sure that the link is in the show notes so everybody can get a copy. Here at the Abundance Journey, we always turn the tables on our guests because we know that when we give is when we get. So what can we do to support you?
I love that. That's a nice pivot. Thank you. Well, I would just say, there are introverts all over the place, and we are not all shy and quiet, as you've seen here with Elaine and I. Sometimes we don't really know who the introverts are in our lives, and yet we're all there. So to just share the roadmap with people, even if you don't identify as an introvert, and love people who are in business, and even people who aren't. It's a way to get yourself out of your own way and stretch that comfort zone. So to share that with your people and your family, I would love that. Thank you in advance.
Absolutely. Well, I have used the roadmap before. I love the roadmap. I've gotten a lot of results using the roadmap, and it's something that I keep handy because I refer to it over and over again. It's a good reminder to me of what I can do when I start to feel myself like really losing energy, or I need to step up for a situation. It gives me energy so I can show up fully. And I love the roadmap. It's absolutely fabulous. I highly recommend that you download it and use it and share it with other people, because they will get a lot out of it. They really will.
Thank you for saying that.
Oh, yeah, it's the truth.
I think they go great together, the abundance journey and the road. I mean, it's just,
it's a journey.
It is.
Lorraine, thank you so much for joining us today for the abundance journey. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Elaine. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you.
All right. Well, hang on for just a minute, because we're going to activate abundance. Hey, it is time to activate abundance. Now that we've finished our conversation with Lorraine, I want to make sure that I celebrate this experience. And I'm so blessed. I get to see Lorraine twice a week, sometimes more often than that. And so I really feel a deep connection with her because we've spent so much time together over the last 3 years. But I want you to take a minute to celebrate this experience because you connected your energy with a really powerful intuitive, an introvert entrepreneur intuitive, and she knows her stuff. So like I said, when you can't be it, borrow it. Borrow the energy from Lorraine, borrow the energy from me, celebrate that you've got this connection and that you've got some really great gems today. So then we're going to acknowledge an insight that we received. Personally, I loved her point about acknowledging your progress, looking at how far you've come, celebrating yourself and what you've been willing to do and how you've shifted your energy so you could show up. That makes such a huge difference when you acknowledge yourself, because too often we spend all our time beating ourselves up. Oh, I should have done this. I could have done that. I ought to have said that, and instead just going, wait a minute, I showed up. And that was a stretch for me to show up, but I showed up. That's a huge win. And we need to acknowledge ourselves for things like that. The next step, once we celebrate and acknowledge, we're going to appreciate the difference that this can make in your life. When you take the time to celebrate yourself and acknowledge yourself, it shifts everything in your manager. I don't know if you've watched the episode yet about Strength Finder 2.0, but you've got a manager between your ears. And that manager, hopefully, is an empowering, supportive manager who's focused on your strengths. If that manager is belittling you or beating you up, then that's not a good manager. And you've got to retrain that manager. Doing this process of celebrating and acknowledging totally retrains your manager. So you have a totally different outlook on life and you experience things differently. It's that simple. Okay, celebrate, acknowledge, appreciate. Now we're going to activate abundance, because one of the things that I like to do is I like to journal. I like to keep track of, okay, I showed up at this meeting and here are the ahas that I got from that meeting. Here are the insights that I received from that meeting. It's basically a way for me to activate abundance in every single meeting that I have, every single conversation that I have. It's so important to me to activate abundance with this 4-step process. And I can celebrate that something great is coming because of this, because you've had this shift and this reminder to celebrate and acknowledge yourself. Now you can start to look at what shows up and how you feel about yourself and how you feel in front of others. You're going to notice a lot of things changing for the better. This is Elaine Starling, the Abundance Ambassador. I look forward to seeing you in the next Abundance Journey. Bye-bye. Watch my TED Talk, Abundance is a Choice. You can visit theabundancejourney.com to find the link and discover how you can receive a special gift. You are a blessing and you are blessed.